Hey guys, before today's video, I want to tell you about something that I think you guys might enjoy. We'll be hosting at Plex Chat and Stats Royale tournaments, 1,000-man tournaments, twice a day from November 3rd today to November 10th. The winners will play in a final bracket vying for the top prize of 25,000 gems. I'll include a link in the pinned comment for all the information that you guys will need about this tournament. With that, enjoy the video, guys. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. I have one of your favorite guests back on the channel. I went to King's Cup 2, and so many of you guys were like, bring on Tag more and bring on RumHam more. So I'm going to deliver at least on one of those two today, and it's none other than RumHam. Hammy, how you doing, man?
Good. I almost thought for a second I might be Sir Tag, but I'm glad
no.
I'm me today. That's awesome. I actually echo those opinions. I might have been one of the people telling you to bring Tag on more. Every time that I have a question about a deck or a strategy, like, oh, why can't I beat deck A with deck B? I tweet Tag right away, and he always gives me good answers.
Yeah, man. People should go subscribe to Tag's YouTube channel as well. He does a very good job explaining stuff. You know, I put him right up there with the best in the game at really breaking down, you know, sometimes what can be complicated subjects and making them easy for guys like you and I, Rum, to understand.
Yeah. And actually, as a quick note from the King's Cup 2, if you watched the day one broadcast at the very beginning, Woody and I made 2 picks of who was going to make the top 8. And both of my picks, SoKing and Tag, made it that far, with Tag going 7-0 in the final heat. So I might not be good, but I can see good players. I know what good players look like.
Absolutely. I'd like to think that I have the same attribute there, but yeah, I think that you're, you know, it's weird. You can have, it's almost like 2 separate skill sets, like understanding the game and then being able to play it at a high level. But hey, 1 out of 2 ain't bad, right, man?
Right, better than 0 for 2. I'm doing
yeah,
all right.
And you did a great job casting, by the way. And I do want to get to the subject of the day, which is going to be Skeleton, the newest card in the game, Skeleton Barrel. And if it's good, if it's bad, if it's worth your money to upgrade and invest in. And in the background, by the way, these are some 12-win decks that a few pros have actually shared with me. I'll include all their contact information in the description below too, if you want to ask them any questions about the deck or whatnot. And there's a free-to-play version. There's a couple like multi-legendary versions, a lot there. But before we get to any of that, Rum, like, that was a marathon 11+ hour stream. How do you do it, and what is it like from your point of view, just casting every single moment in those big events?
It's honestly an incredible honor, right, to be able to do that. There's so many people who want to cast an event like that, and to be chosen for it is great. It's definitely a lot of work, very exhausting. As anyone who saw me maybe after the King's Cup can attest to, I kind of just sat there holding a beer, just like, you know, for the hours afterwards. Yeah, it drains a lot out of you, but a lot of it, honestly, is just experience. You know, I've been doing these events for over a year now, going back to the Super Magical Cup through the North American Open and spring season and onwards. If that was my first ever event, I think I would have just died. But the little tips and tricks that you get from doing past events and sort of learning how to conserve your energy, knowing when to raise it, but then when to just kind of chill out and recharge is really important. And of course, you know, shout out to the other, the production crew and the other analysts who give you a little off time. When we throw to them for a couple minutes, it gives you a chance just to look at your phone and gather your thoughts and kind of reset.
Yeah, for sure. What you've casted so many Clash Royale events. What's been your favorite?
Honestly, I think the King's Cup 2 was the best production I've ever seen. Like, it was a 10.5-hour stream, but it was very watchable, very punchy. They just went from game to game to game, you know, very quickly. I'm actually going to post a King's Cup 2 aftermath and thoughts on my channel this coming week. So hopefully I can cover a lot of this in, you know, more detail. But in general, I thought it was the best esports event I've seen for Clash Royale. I thought it did a great job of mixing the influencers and the competitive players while also allowing new people an opportunity to shine. And it made a really strong case for me that this can be a very watchable and exciting esport by just being quick and punchy and integrating the tweets and bouncing back and forth between the casters and analysts. Like, it was a great show. Honestly, if you haven't seen the stream already, it's definitely worth going over there and watching it.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. It was my favorite event that I've been a part of too, and it was, you know, you guys, I tweeted about this the other day, but you guys did a fantastic job, you know, all 5 of you, and Sean Charles, the host. You know, you guys you killed it. So it's a great event, loved it. But anyway, back to the subject here. Some people are like, really?
Congrats on winning, by the way. Like, but yeah, let's move on. But let's give hats off to being the winning captain.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was a good cheerleader. That's about it. But hey, it was fun. But yeah, Vulcan and Surge really tremendous players. So
Not often
today,
the cheerleader is bigger than the quarterback. Yeah, you're built like a linebacker. Jeez. All right, let's go. Skeleton Barrel, tell me about it.
let's do it. Some people are like, 4 minutes in, you haven't talked about Skeleton Barrel at all. All right, so Skeleton Barrel. What are you're really good at kind of quickly assessing a new card that's added to the game. That's the reason I wanted to have you on today. So, what are your first thoughts on Skeleton Barrel? And let's just throw it all out there. Is Skeleton Barrel a card that people out there should invest their gold on upgrading?
Whew, that is a very good question. I would say my very first impression of Skeleton Barrel was that I thought it was going to be like an 8 out of 10 card. 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 was my first impression. After actually having handled it for a little bit and running it in the metagame, I actually might have to lower my rating of it right now to maybe a 5 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, which maybe is like a no. But I think there is a very high potential that we will see a good, refined Skeleton Barrel list reveal itself in tournament play within the next, let's say, month or so. It has a lot of potential. It's great when it works, but I'm surprised at how often it doesn't work. I expected it to connect or be effective more often than it actually is right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. It kind of landed a little bit underwhelming with me as well. Even playing it in the challenge, you were just like, I guess I'll pass on it after a while, right? I mean, when it was the draft challenge.
You know what, though, Ash? You said that you were passing it a lot in draft. I actually found that I was picking it like a decent amount, like maybe half and half. It wasn't nearly as bad as something like Heal, where I was passing it every single time in that draft challenge. The cool thing about Clash Royale as it goes on is we're going to get more and more game modes, right? We've got 1-on-1, 2-on-2, touchdown, and draft mode. And I actually think that it's strongest in that sort of pick-pass draft because there's no guarantee that your opponent's going to have a zap or a log where it's nearly a given in constructed play. I found I had a lot of opportunities, especially once I saw like a zap come out against some other card, to then go with a tank Skeleton Barrel. And it was usually pretty effective, especially given that it's sort of like a graveyard that costs 2 less. It's a lot easier just to throw out Skeleton Barrels and see what happens because you're not going to get countered like 2 for 5 by bats like you would with a graveyard.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if anybody would know about draft mode, it would be you. So that's that's actually that's a decent point. Yeah.
And the first draft Royale with Skeleton Barrel will be going on my channel this week soon. And actually, its first impressions was not too terribly great. I expected it to be a great draft Royale card because all the other sort of zap bait sort of cards are usually pretty good. But it's consistently been about a 7th or 8th round pick, which is around where like Cannon Cart debuted at. So it may end up
pretty telling.
Yeah, so it's definitely not on the easy strong end because when Night Witch, Electro Wizard, all these cards came out, they shot right to the top of the draft picks. So this card is definitely, I don't think it's being overlooked that much, but I do think it has potential in the right setup.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing, how it plays in your draft. So guys, make sure you subscribe, obviously, to RumHam. And also for that Kings Cup 2 tournament recap, I'm looking forward to that as well. So what do you think should or ought to be done to make it a little bit more stronger? Maybe a movement speed increase or a death damage? Or do you think it's too early even to say?
I think it's too early to say because I do believe that it is a good card that will find use in a competitive deck. But it's going to be somewhere on the power level of like guards where it's like around, it's a fringe card, you see it, but it's not going to be like a meta-defining card. And whether or not it needs to be buffed or not, I think is going to yet to reveal itself. Real quickly, though, the way I think you got to evaluate cards is to try to sort of play to their strengths and see how they fit in with the other cards that exist. What I see too many new players do is they immediately try to make a one-to-one comparison between it and another card and then just dismiss it. So they'll say something like, well, Goblin Barrel's better than Skeleton Barrel and they cost the same, so why would I ever play Skeleton Barrel? The end, it sucks, Goblin Barrel's better. And I disagree with this because one thing that players always overlook is redundancy. Redundancy meaning how many times can you put the same effect in your deck to overwhelm your opponent's likely just one counter to that card. So, for example, Spellbait as an entire deck is built around the redundancy of these swarmy effects. You only have one log, so yeah, you're going to be able to log the Goblin Gang, and that sucks. But then you won't be able to deal with the Princess and the Minion Horde and the Goblin Barrel and all this stuff that comes out around that. So, by that same token, I think Skeleton Barrel is only going to be as good of a card as it fits into other decks that are trying to do the same thing. So, for example, if I had a deck that ran Tombstone and Goblin Barrel and Skeleton Barrel and Goblin Gang. Well, now Skeleton Barrel can play a really crucial part because the nature of the deck, trying to bait out zaps and other things, is going to make Skeleton Barrel a lot better because they aren't going to be able to just log it or zap it or whatever when I actually do cast the Skeleton Barrel.
Yeah, in kind of following up to that a little bit, do you think that where do you think the natural kind of the natural spot for Skeleton Barrel would be in terms of what decks it would actually shine in? Like, I put up a poll the other day. I'll flash it on the screen right now. But I asked my followers on Twitter, and man, it was like pretty much split opinion whether it's going to be a ground beatdown deck with Giant, with Golem, etc., or is it going to be with an air deck like behind a Lava Hound, or could it be a miner deck sent in as the miner tanking, or could it be a bait deck to kind of bait out that Zapper log? Where do you see this card fitting? It seems like there's a lot of possibilities.
I would say I like the idea of playing it with Giant specifically because Giant Balloon. Okay, so there's two ways you can look at it. Giant Goblin Barrel is already like kind of a thing, especially on the ladder where those cards are a lot more common together. I think Giant Goblin Barrel is a deck that could really use like one more Goblin Barrel-y sort of effect. Giant Skeleton Barrel Goblin Barrel is only 11 elixir, which puts it right at the same range as like Giant Night Witch, Giant Balloon, these sort of effective pushes, except it requires you to log or zap right away on the Goblin Barrel. And when you do that, well, then the Skeleton Barrel right afterwards comes and you don't have a response. If you wait to be like, oh, I'll just log the Skeleton Barrel and the Goblin Barrel at the same time, you're going to take so much damage from the Goblin Barrel that it's not going to be worth it for you. So I see that being like a pretty effective combination, with the biggest downside being like, well, that's a whole lot of elixir that doesn't really defend itself. So maybe something like Knight with those two cards would make more sense. But in general, I see it going the best along with Goblin Barrel and other, maybe even things like Inferno Dragon and other zap bait stuff, because really its number one nemesis is zap. So if you can get the zaps out of their hand, then the barrel becomes a lot scarier.
Yeah, it almost like this is like such a curveball, and I don't think this would actually be viable, but it almost seems like if you had a deck with, say, Bats, Inferno Dragon, maybe even Sparky, and then the Skeleton Barrel, it's like it's really making your opponent choose where they're going to spend their zap, you know?
Yeah, and Skeleton Barrel can tank pretty well for stuff. I think it's an underrated aspect of the card. You know, when Battle Ram first came out, people didn't really understand that you can use Battle Ram on defense in a lot of situations, and it's not great, but it's all right. Skeleton Barrel, for only 3 cost, is like, you can actually use it against things like 3 Musketeers. Like when the 2 Musketeer lane crosses the river, you drop the barrel there. They spend a couple shots shooting the barrel, then they spend a couple shots on all the skeletons. It's not amazing. It's not better than Skeleton Army, but it acts like a Skeleton Army in a pinch against a very common deck archetype. By that same token, things like Minions, Mega Minion, you can do things like put it in front of a Mega Minion, so the tower is shooting the Mega Minion, and then the Skeleton Army comes down on the ground, and then you drop the Miner to tank for the tower as the Skeleton Army is counterattacking. They might just zap it or whatever, but at that point, you've gotten a Mega Minion and a zap out of their hand for 3, and your Miner is free to attack. So there's like opportunities to use it on defense that are going to take a while for people to learn and just get used to, but I think it's got potential as a card. I mean, it costs 3, right? So there's like, if it cost 4, I would say, man, total poops. It's terrible. But if they arrow it, that's an even
family-friendly channel here, Rum. I'm gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah, right. So you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's low-cost cards are always going to have a much wider breadth of like how good or bad they can be, because if nothing else, even if it ends up being a bad play, you probably didn't lose that much elixir on the counterattack.
Yeah, indeed. And I actually remember watching a video on your channel way back. It feels like a year ago, but it probably was like 6 months ago when they announced these cards. And you actually were a big fan of this card, if I remember correctly. Not as much as the Mega Knight, but you thought this was going to be a unique and interesting card, partially because it was a common, partially because of its mechanics. 2 questions. Number 1 is, do you think this is a win condition card, or is it a support card? And 2, do you think it's okay that it was a common card? I mean, I'm always a little leery about when they introduce a common card now after Elite Barbarians and Royal Giant. Do you think that's a problem, or, you know, with the mechanics, is it okay with this card?
I think that it's a secondary win condition, probably not a main win condition. Like I said, I think it pairs really well with cards like Giant, where Giant's sort of the main thing you have to focus on, and while you're not dealing with the Giant, then the Skeleton Barrel is like this additional threat. I actually think it's a great common card, and I think it's the exact sort of card that Supercell should be making and putting at the common rarity. The thing that makes Skeleton Barrel safer to me as a common card than something like Royal Giant is Royal Giant is solely an expression of hit points and damage that scales up, right? Like there's no, if I have 3,000 hit points and I'm leveled up, now I'm 3,300 hit points, level up again, I'm 3,600 hit points. Like that's just a direct linear amount of health that I'm gaining. The nice thing about Skeleton Barrel is that they're skeletons. So even if they're 10% or 20% more healthy, they still die to arrows and zap and log like very comfortably. So an over-leveled, and the health of the Skeleton Barrel doesn't matter because it just dies when it connects to the tower anyway. So being like, oh, it's so much harder to shoot it before it gets to my tower isn't really relevant. The whole thing about Skeleton Barrel is, do you have a zap in hand, or do you have something like dart goblins or archers that can quickly clean up the skeletons? The biggest scare to me about it on the ladder is if over-leveled skeletons are common enough that they out-level the... actually, I'll give you a great example. Ice Wizard. Ice Wizard kills equal-level skeletons. Higher-level skeletons, though, not so much. So if you have a low-level Ice Wizard and I have a really high-level Skeleton Barrel, Ice Wizard's not going to be great, but it's still going to two-hit the skeletons and slow them down. You know, I think overall as a common, this one's going to be pretty safe. If you over-level it, it'll be nice and effective when it works, but it's not going to stop, like, Zap from killing the skeletons, which is, I think, what makes it safer than something like if Dart Goblin was a common, and Dart Goblin could survive things like Zap and Log by being over-leveled.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think that Skeleton Barrel, not a problem, good common card because skeletons are an issue. When they release the Elite Barbarian Barrel, then I think we're going to be worried. And if it's a common.
I get what you're talking about, yeah. Because the dangerous commons are one where it's just a single target thing that goes up in health and damage. You know, people always complain about Royal Giant and Elite Barbarians, whatever, being over-leveled. If those cards were just deleted from the game, people would just go over-level Knight. And if you've ever played against an over-leveled Knight, you'll die, man. Those things are insane. Like, if you play against a Knight that's 2 to 3 levels higher than your common,
wait. Are you telling me you're on the bandwagon of Nerf Knight?
I'm not on saying Nerf Knight. I'm saying over-leveled commons are going to be a problem no matter what those cards are, unless every single common is like skeletons and goblins and stuff.
Gotcha.
Because, the thing that makes Royal Giant really tough is that if I have 40% more health, then it doesn't really matter if you have mini P.E.K.K.A. The Royal Giant's going to live long enough to do a significant amount of damage for 6 elixir, even if you counter it perfectly. Now, if I have a 2 to 3 level higher Skeleton Barrel, your zap is still going to work. So it's fine. Like, you still have the counter. You only feel the pain if you don't have the counter, and then the skeletons do more damage. But if you have a counter, it's fine. You don't get it negated. Have you ever tried to log a princess that doesn't die?
That's the most annoying thing ever.
Right.
Thankfully, I just got a level 4 log, so I don't have to worry about that ever again. Thank God.
Right. But until then, you used to see rare dart goblins, maxed out dart goblins. And not being able to log maxed out dart goblins is unbelievable. It makes the dart goblin
ridiculous.
A crazy good card.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be the case with Skeleton Barrel, but it is the case with Royal Giant. If you were to get rid of Royal Giant, people would just over-level some other common, like Knight or Barbarians. And when Barbarians can, like, significantly survive a Fireball, or a Knight that's so high level, he just straight up beats up your mini P.E.K.K.A., that's like, it changes the interactions of the game so much to tilt the game in your favor. So I think the problem, we've talked about this before, is just over-leveling commons. Until that problem gets solved, it seems silly to talk about individual cards about whether or not they should be a common, because it's the system that's broken, not the card design themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but just to play devil's advocate a bit, I do think that we stray a little bit when, I do think Elite Barbarians and Royal Giant are more of an issue than, say, Knight, just because of their risk-reward ratio. Like, they're expensive units, right? And I think that they're just more powerful in general than a Knight is. Not saying that the Knight is, in a vacuum, has a lot of power for 3 elixir, but the fact that you can have Elite Barbarians absolutely just take down your tower in a matter of seconds is extra frustrating, I think.
Yeah, it's more in your face, and you feel it, which makes a bigger visceral reaction. This goes back to what we talked about the last time I was on your channel. We talked about whether or not quests were going to be better or worse, and it was like, it doesn't matter if they're mathematically better or worse. It matters, do you feel like it's better? When you log in every day, are you excited to do your quest? Are you excited to get the reward relative to a free chest?
Yeah, we got to do a follow-up on that too. But for now, I want to leave you with just taking a step back from the Skeleton Barrel and, this specific round of new cards. because we are going to get another round of new cards. We don't know what they are yet, but we'll be getting them. And they're going to continue to come staggered. So meaning what was initially, every other week or every 3 weeks, now it seems to be getting longer and longer between every single individual card release. I wanted to get your opinion before I let you go on if you're a fan of this, now that what it's become. It used to be we got bulk new cards all the same day, and then the next update was only a couple months or a few months away. Now it's a lot different. It's get a new card, wait 6, 7, 8 weeks, get another new card, and the process kind of continues. What do you think?
I think we might be a little hard on Supercell on that schedule because it has been, I think, a solid month between the last couple cards. I mean, Flying Machine didn't come out 2 months ago, right? So I think that it's actually been pretty steady about a month, but I'm
going to look it up frantically here, but go on.
Yeah, but I think that I miss being able to play with 4 new cards at the same time as much as anyone. But I think the bigger problem is not so much that the cards are coming out once a month. That's actually a pretty good release pattern. I think that it has been impactful to the meta. I mean, there's plenty of single card releases that have totally changed the way we play Clash Royale. I think the problem for me is the progression system in Clash Royale. When you get a new card, you can't just play it right away. It takes a long time to catch it up to your ladder deck, so much so that by the time you actually do get it caught up to the rest of your ladder deck, you're not excited about it anymore. Conversely, even getting something up to tournament cap can take a free-to-play or a small spender, a week or 2 weeks. And if you're trying to play this card as like under-leveled, like a level 7 skeleton barrel, level 8 skeleton barrel, while you're trying to get to level 9, kind of dampers your enthusiasm because you're playing with a nerfed version of the card as you're just trying to get experience. So for me, what I'd like to see is when a new card comes out and you unlock it for the first time, you get some sort of like booster effect on your account where that card is just automatically caught up to your commons on the ladder or tournament cap for challenges for like 2 days or 3 days. And you still see it in your inventory as like, 160 out of 2, 4, 8, whatever. You got to level it up like normal. But just for like 2 to 3 days, you have the opportunity of playing it on the ladder maxed out. And then it goes away. And then you go, my buff's gone. Okay, now it's back to the low level. But I did get that opportunity to taste it right away just as it came out and felt that excitement without having to wait 2 months and like earn my right to actually play it at the right level.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea. Do you think that idea could? And by the way, I do stand corrected. You're right. It has been a month, almost to the day, of Flying Machine. So you're correct there. What do you think about like taking that one step further and allowing yourself to boost a card on a temporary basis? Maybe not to max, but maybe by a level or 2 or something like that for a temporary amount of time for resources. Do you think that could actually, maybe help solve some of these ladder frustrations, or is that still too pay-to-winny for you?
I think if it was something like a gold offer that came up in the store, that would be kind of interesting, because I think the people who have the most gold to spend and the most like desire to try out new cards at a high level would be like higher ladder players. Like I'm level 9 or 10, 11, 12, 13. And a new epic comes out, man, I can't play that thing on the ladder effectively forever. I can maybe rush it up to level 4 and then try to enjoy it in tournaments, but even getting an epic to level 4 is kind of a pain. To me, if I got to play it maxed out or whatever, like up to par with my ladder cards and up to par and challenges for a couple days, and then it goes away, that's the perfect time to hit me with these offers that they have, the giant chests that are filled with flying machines or whatever. Hit me on the day that that I lose my flying machine after having played it maxed out. I'm going to really like, I like this card. It felt really good. Yeah, I'm interested in getting it leveled up quicker. But right now it's like sort of the card comes out, you try it in the challenge, and then like you just don't play with it really for 2 weeks. And then they have this like, hey, buy the giant chest that has a bunch of skeleton barrels in it. And it's just like a bad experience for the customer because they're not getting the best taste of the card before being offered to use it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and you never disappoint, RumHam, bringing these ideas to the channel. I think that there's definitely something to think about. There is kind of, they've actually made a lot of progress in giving us these challenges for every card, which is great. They didn't have that 6 months ago, and now they give us the chest deals for the new card. So I think it's like steps in the right direction. It just doesn't solve the overall problem of, like you kind of said, when they release a new epic, let alone legendary, there's no way you're going to play it on ladder unless you're willing to spend, $3,000 to $4,000 or wait 3 years or whatever, and I don't think I'm even exaggerating in the 3 years, right?
I'm just now getting Executioner up to max after having requested it a ton. I've obviously purchased all the special deals and super magical chests and all that, like in between now and then. So it's been over 6 months, and I'm just now getting it with absolute dedication and buying everything out of the shop and all that. Now 6 months later, it's just too much. Like, you're not hyped for it anymore. Actually, 9 months now. It's been way longer than 6 months. What am I talking about? Graveyard came out. Oh my God, no! I think it's been a year. When did Executioner might have come out a year ago? And I'm seriously just now getting it to max, despite having literally a singular focus on trying to get that card leveled up. So that's brutal.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, Rum, anything else that we should be aware of before we let you go? Anything coming up? I know we already talked about the King's Cup 2 recap and the Draft Royale. Anything else that's in the works there?
Not something that I'm doing, but I guess I will give a shout out that on November 4th, they're doing a charity stream to support Extra Life. I unfortunately will not be in town and can't participate in it, but I would encourage everyone to check out the charity stream for Extra Life being put on by the Reddit community. And of course, just, a bunch of YouTubers and streamers will be involved. So just, Google it, check it out, and make sure to contribute to that.
Great shout out. I did the previous one. It was an awesome time. It had a lot of donations. So thanks for mentioning that, Rum. And thanks again for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Always a pleasure to be on the channel, buddy. Anytime you want to talk about anything, just give me a call.
Will do, man. Pleasure's all mine. And that is going to do it, guys. Again, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to RumHam. His information is going to be in the description below. Huge shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Check out his information as well in the description below. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And as always, take care, guys.